Well, he co-founded Cadiz, which oversees billions of rands in assets, and for years it's had less than stellar performance. This is Tonight. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I catch up with Ray Cadiz and why he exited the group and what he does next. But Ray Cadiz in Cape Town, nice to have you with us this evening. Give me a perspective, please. Take me back to the early days when you and Frank and I'm sure a couple of mates get together and you think, let's start a business which everybody will pronounce as Cadiz, because that's what everybody did in the early days, and let's start an asset manager. Take me back.
Yes, Bruce, the name's been pronounced a lot of different ways. We started in '93. The opportunity at the time was in the derivative space, options and futures. And really there was no one in the space who used to consult to the asset management and pension fund industry in basically teaching these guys how to use derivatives to mitigate risk in portfolios. And so we were first movers there, and the gap was big, and we were fortunate enough in terms of timing to be able to step into the gap.
And what year did you list the business? Because Cadiz, in my institutional memory anyway, has always been there, but you founded in '93. When did you list?
I left in 2005, so I became non-exec in '95, and we listed the business in 1999.
Okay, 1999, so the height of the tech boom and bust. Take me through the early days, because were you affected by the collapse in technology companies? Everything came under a huge amount of pressure at that time, 2000, 2001. There was a huge pullback in markets around the world. Did you get nailed as well?
Yeah, we had a very brief honeymoon period there where we looked like we were the kings. And our particular small stock industry in the financial services and the tech sector, we're flying. I think when we went public, our price earning ratio was 75.
Sure.
And we thought that was going to be a sort of permanent phenomenon, which we should have known better being in the market. But it was boom time. Everyone was growing, and we could attract whatever talent we wanted. It was really great. But as you've mentioned, it didn't last forever.
No, it didn't. And I came into this market in the year 2000, and in those early days, you were a stock picker's favorite. People saw you as the smartest guys in the room. You were doing things that they didn't fully understand, and they were, I think, somewhat in awe of you. And the share price, you had a fairly good run.
Yeah, we had a good time, and we built a business. I think what happened is that when you go public, there's an inevitable pressure to build and to grow. And at the same time, the niche that we founded the business in was under pressure the whole time. We had a lot of influx from offshore. A lot of skills came in here, and margins were under pressure, and a lot of competition, which is kind of inevitable for any business, I suppose. But we saw the need as a public company to diversify and to grow out of our niche, and that's always a challenge, I think. I think if one can launch a business and stay in that business, and if that original business can be your main line throughout your life, then it's fine. But we were under pressure to grow, and we had to step out the box, try new things, and it was fun and testing, and inevitably, you come with challenges, and it's been a tough road.
And what was it like working with, effectively, it's a listed family business, wasn't it?
Well, not really. They're two family members. Frank and I started the business together, so we put our name on the door, but that's really where the family thing stopped. It's been a public company. We've hired hundreds of people over the years, and it wasn't a family business, really, no.
Where would you consider Cadiz' peak having been? What sort of year? How big were you?
Well, I retired in 2005. I think we were making 100 million after tax, so the business was going nicely. But as I mentioned, we needed to make some decisions to grow. They were taken consciously. They weren't taken recklessly. And the specific angle we elected to follow was the asset management route, and that coincided with the acquisition of African Harvest Asset Management, which came to the market. It was for sale at the time, so we thought that was a natural extension for us and a growth vector, and that's the direction we followed.
Is that where the wheels came off?
Well, I think you could trace it back to a number of different things, but I don't think we would have done anything differently. The decision was probably the right decision. But obviously, if you're in asset management, what really matters is your investment performance. And fundamentally, after the transaction, when we bought African Harvest, the performance of the portfolios was not impressive at all. And it took us arguably too long to change the investment team and the investment process. maybe because we weren't by nature asset managers. We'd consulted to the industry for some time, but we hadn't actually managed assets ourselves. So we may be a little bit slow in making the changes that need to be made. But we bought the business because of the team, and we thought the clients were clients because of the team. But their investment performance tailed off, and we had to make some changes. And the new team, which is largely still in place in the asset management business, they're very credible. I buy into their philosophy, their process, and the board does as well. But as you would know, different philosophies have times in the market, and there can be a big lag between what you believe in and what the market delivers. So we've had that lag, and that ultimately has caused impatience with our shareholders, some of our shareholders, and led to the change.
Now, absolutely. I mean, one goes to 2005, 2006 when you make the acquisition, then 2008 happens, of course, the bottom falls out of market. So maybe you come into grips by 2008 with what's going on within African Harvest, and then the rug is pulled out from you once again there as well.
Yeah, we lost one big mandate as well. I think it was a parastatal mandate. We lost, literally, I think we had about just over 60 billion in assets, and we lost one mandate of 30. So that never helps. But at the end of the day, it's all down to performance. You've got to perform, and if you don't, then clients get restless, shareholders get restless, and I think it's one of the consequences of being a public company. Had we not been public, had we been private, we'd have more time to sit with our investment philosophy and wait for it to come to fruition. But we weren't. We were public, and shareholders have got their rights. They express their views, and change can happen. Even if maybe myself was going to be more patient, I would have been more patient. But I've only got my shares, and everyone's got their shares. They can vote the way they want, and the change came as a result of that.
Are you now completely disinvested from Cadiz? Have you cut all ties? Because you were on the board and no longer on the board.
That's right. Both Frank and myself are both off the board, and we have sold our equity. But I mean, obviously, I'll never really cut all my ties with the business, because most of the guys that work there are great friends of mine, and I respect them immensely. My name's still on the door, and I'm there as I'm always there as someone to talk to if they need to talk to me for whatever. So we've come a long way together. We've seen a lot together, and I wish them well. And so I'm never really going to cut all of my ties.
I mean, when one looks at it, though, I mean, here you've got a business that has your name on the door, as you put it. It is not a common name. Is it something that's been discussed in terms of the right to continue using that name, or if it's registered, it exists? They can always claim it's after a Spanish city or something like that.
Yeah, it comes from the days of the Spanish Armada when they landed in Ireland somewhere. It's a bit of a funny past, but I'm not quite sure what they intend doing with the name. I'm not on the board anymore, so. They might want to change it or continue. I'm not sure.
Are you and Frank going back into business together?
Well, Frank's got a time off because of his settlement package from Cadiz, and I actually, after spending 9 years retired, I started a new business in February last year, in the financial services sector again, in the derivative space, actually doing more or less what I did when we first started. So it's been very refreshing, exciting for me, and it's going very nicely. It's called Constellation Capital. And we've got low overheads, and we're starting like we started before. So it's great fun.
But do you not feel like you're going back to square one, or is that part of the excitement? Maybe you lost the excitement as Cadiz was forced to grow. You've learned some expensive and some time-consuming lessons over the last 10 years. Do you intend staying small and having the fun that you were having as you started out with Cadiz?
That's a big challenge, I think, because staying small is probably the way to stay, but it's also exciting to grow, and I've learned so much over the time, and I suppose you could draw the analogy with building a house. That there's the chance that the first house you built is your best house is probably unlikely, and probably the same with a business. So I bring forward all of the things that I've learned, and we've got an awesome little team at Constellation, and we actually were rated number 2 in South Africa in derivative research in our first year. So it's been great, and we're dealing with almost all of the clients in the country, and it's tempting to grow. You see businesses around you that have done major things in the sector, and there's some things you don't do and some things you've learned from, and it's tempting to grow, but that comes with the inevitable headaches. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, as long as we don't go down the same path again, Ray Cadies, everything will be fine. You must love a bit of volatility. You must love the fact that we've seen the market down since the beginning of May, the first time in probably a decade that sell in May and go away seems to be paying off. We're down about 8% from the highs at the beginning of May. Derivative instruments and all that sort of stuff particularly useful in times of uncertainty.
Yeah, they definitely are. You know, I think our index, all our indices are quite diversified now, and in terms of currency sector, they're all quite diversified, so they're fairly robust. But the single stock derivative market has been very active. So with movements like we're seeing in the last few months, you know, almost every day there's an individual stock, or certainly in the space of a month, there's an individual stock which is, does something extraordinary in terms of either appreciation or decline. So there's an amount around that. The volatility of the stock also affects the price of the options. So, for me, when I used to trade, there were only index derivatives. Now there's a whole market in the single stock options, and it's very fertile. It's territory where you can really bring your skills to the fore, and there's a lot of action going on there. So it's great fun.
Is South Africa big enough? Because I've been at the World Economic Forum on Africa last week, just talking to people about the growth of capital markets on the African continent. Are they evolved enough for this kind of activity, for this kind of market activity?
Yeah, I mean, I think our financial markets are legendary in terms of being up there, possibly even boxing out of our weight division. The markets, they work really well. I was the chairman of SAFEX some years ago. The JSE is well recognized globally. So the top stocks, the top 40, 50 are liquid. There are a lot of price makers involved. We've got a lot of international investors. So I think the market's great. It's big. It's got space to grow. I think it's great.
The ever-optimistic Ray Cadies, co-founder of Cadies, now Constellation Capital. He's moved on there as well. Thanks very much for joining us, and thank you for watching. There'll be more tonight, tomorrow. Till then, good night and goodbye.